These absolute crusty abominations are long and lanky, which, if we're all being completely honest, every single of those professional athletes look like if they weren't filled to the brim with illicit substances. Rock. That's besides the point. They can really, at the end of the day, do whatever they want. In today's video, I want to delve into these giant abominations and their secret story inside of Elden Ring, because make no mistake, everyone seems to think there's such a mystery, and don't get me wrong, they are, but there's a lot more stuff that tells you their story than people give them credit, and that's exactly what I want to talk about in today's video. Before we get any further into the video, I just wanted to say we are so close to 11,000 subscribers. If you're already subscribed, just ignore this, but if you're not subscribed, please do consider leaving a like and subscribe, as it greatly helps the channel, but only at the end of the video once you've realised if you enjoy this or not, because if you don't enjoy the video, why the fuck would you subscribe? Without any more further diddly-daddling, please sit back, relax, grab some succulent, juicy, bloody mouth-watering prawns if you want, and enjoy as we delve into these crusty abominations. Located in the eternal cities in the underground of Elden Ring's world are a lot of these crusty abominations. Well, not a lot, but it's quite a few. And they're located upon these old crusty chairs to accompany their crusty bones. If you actually look at these chairs and compare them to the eternal cities, it seems these chairs have been there a lot longer, and that they actually predate the eternal cities by quite a long time. And that's where people stopped and drew their conclusions, but I believe there is a lot more to this story, and I actually believe that the Nox, the inhabitants of the eternal cities, not only worship these bodies, I believe they are descended from them. That sounds like an outlandish claim, but when you realise what I'm about to talk about, it makes a lot of sense. All throughout Elden Ring, when you have a descendant, normally, in some cases, their size decreases. You've got the Titan skeletons you see in Caelin at the mountaintop of the giants. Their descendants are most likely the fire giants, which shrunk, and then the fire giants' descendants shrunk even further into troll size. There's a recurring theme here, and I don't think these giants are any exception. Considering how old these bodies are, it isn't too far-fetched to think there's some sort of correlation to the time period that these giants existed in. Further connecting them is the fact that, like the big giants in Caelin and the Mountain of the Giants, these guys are not talked about at all. But that long-lost heritage, I believe, is just one part of this and isn't the most important at this very moment. I actually believe that there is a much more important reason. Something that is very hard to see when you're actually playing Elden Ring normally is in the Dragonkin Soldier's boss arena, where the first of these bodies you'll actually meet lie. If you look up into the sky, normally you won't see anything in the underground, but with the help of the photo mode, you can actually see there's a tunnel system in the very ceiling of this boss arena. If you compare the overworld map and the underworld map of Elden Ring, you'll actually see that it's very interesting where they line up. In fact, they line up with a cave in Liurnia, right underneath this cave system that we see above the boss fight. All in all, this could be a coincidence, but I don't think it is. For if you go and look at Ranni's quest and look at the Nox, they worship and want a lord for the stars, which is very coincidentally the same what Ranni wants. Ranni is from Liurnia, is from Caria. Bit too much of a coincidence, right? I think absolutely bloody not. This goes even further when you go and look at item descriptions to do with the Nox. The Nox were banished underground, yet we're never told how exactly they got banished underground, how they got there in the first place, and why. Starting off with how they got there, I truly believe they came down through this hole. That sounds outlandish, I know, but I believe the first Nox, the first few Noxes, were these giants. It's commonly believed that the Nox and Newman are one and the same, the difference being the Nox bleed gold. The Nox seem to be in and of themselves life forms created, or at least at one point in time they were created before they managed to develop. But we are never exactly told how the Nox were created, who created them, who was the creator, who was responsible. And I think it was these giants, these Newman. I saw this theory on Reddit on why the Newman would even create the Nox, and I think it's a really good explanation. The Newman are long-lived, but they are seldom born, so they would need more population, hence comes the Nox. But I think there's a lot more to this story. Considering the size of the hole in the top of the ceiling, it's going to be just the giants coming down, so that places the Nox after they've been banished to the underground, which makes a lot of sense considering the thrones are older looking than the actual cities. It seems like once they were banished underground, they created the Nox to bolster their population and continue on. Now, why exactly they are called the Nox, I think I have a reason for as well. The Newman, or the Nox, invoked the ire of the Greater Will, which we are going to talk about more in a minute, but after they invoked the ire of the Greater Will, they were banished underground. Don't you think it'd be very fitting to give them a name of shame? I think it is, and I think that is where the Nox came from. Of course, they have the N at the beginning, Newman, Nox, but it's completely different, and it's meant to bring shame, I believe, onto those that betrayed the Greater Will. Now, I've got my own theories on what exactly was done to betray the Greater Will, and I have talked about it before on the channel, and I think it really fits into this theory. Have you ever seen the finger-slaying blade? It's located underneath one of these giants. That alone is enough to give it a second thought. But when you actually look at the description and actually look at the finger blade itself, well, that's when things start to get a hell of a lot more interesting. The finger-slaying blade is capable of invoking damage upon the Greater Will and its vassals, aka the fingers. Interesting part is, we actually find out from the description that this item was exactly what invoked the ire of the Greater Will, the same action which led to the banishment of the Nox. But what was so important and so horrific about the finger-slaying blade? If you actually look at the finger-slaying blade, it looks like a spine. Now, we've seen weapons like this before. In the DLC, you've got weapons that are created from the teeth of shaman. Inside of the base game, you've got Marika and Radagon swashed and swashed into a sword like it's destiny. The common theme being their body parts take up part of the weapon. With Marika and Radagon, you can see their spine. And on the same case, if you look at the finger-slaying blade, you can see a spine. Only it's malformed and deformed. Not to mention, it's tiny. Now, you might see where I'm going with this, but I believe the Nox, or the Newman, or whoever was responsible, whoever was the giants, I believe they slew a baby that was important to the Greater Will. Be that a god, be a demigod, you name it. This violation of a god, of a godly being, the infanticide, and really the kinslaying, was what eventually led to their banishment. The Black Knight Assassins are said to be Newman, and yet it seems very likely that they were in fact Nox. For if their civilization already has a bit of a history slaying gods, in the fact they've possibly killed a god's child, where's the difference in killing a demigod? Where's the difference in killing a dynasty? Why exactly they did this? I don't know. I really have zero clue, but I am definitely, positively sure they did it. Of course, this is never exactly stated directly, but there's a lot of evidence, in my opinion, that suggests all of this is actually the case. If you've got any other thoughts, please let me know, as I'm really curious to see what you all have to say. On this line of thought, there's one more thing I needed to just mention. If you've watched the channel before, I'm not the biggest fan of Rani. I believe that the actions she committed on the Night of the Black Knives led to what we know as the Shattering and the world that we inhabit inside of Elden Ring. She's not a good guy, but I do understand that some people like her character. My point is, if she's being helped by the Nox, because I'm pretty damn sure that's what the Black Knight Assassins are, the Nox are helping Rani as well. Hell, maybe they're not Nox, but Nox sympathisers? I don't know. Point being, if the Nox are helping Rani, committed infanticide on an infant child, their very own kin, what does that say about Rani? What does it say about the people that follow her? And what does it say about the supposedly innocent goals of her ending? While I was recording the video, I actually looked at the back of the chair and I noticed something. If you actually look, there's a little symbol and it looks very similar to the actual ones that are the candle lights inside the DLC. It might be nothing and it's not one-to-one, but it definitely looks similar, and that sort of points to a possibility of a connection between the Inquisitors and these Newman and Nox. The reason this is so interesting is because the Inquisitors are Hornsent, which are omens, which are misbegotten. They are the Crucible, which is directly opposing the Golden Order and Marika. And so it's kind of fitting that the Nox are also opposing directly Marika. Another connection actually lies on the cloak. If you look at the front, there's this symbol. Now, I'm 100% certain that this is the symbol of these beings, but what it actually stands for might be something we've already seen before. If you go and look at the incantation sign for the Inquisitors, you'll notice the middle sort of connection looks really similar to this symbol. Maybe it's some cadet branch of these Inquisitors. Another really interesting point that connects these big giant ass guys, aka the Nox, to that time period of the Hornsund has to do with the bodies lying outside of these giant places and all around the Eternal Cities. They are strikingly similar to the bodies we actually see in the story trailer for Shadow of the Erdtree. The bodies in the story trailer have long been theorised to be the flayed corpses of godly beings in the god hunts by the Godskin nobles. I believe that these bodies outside these giants are exactly that, skinned bodies from the Godskin's god hunt. A reason for this, that I truly believe this, not only due to the physical appearance, is due to the chest inside one of these giants. If you actually look at them, you'll notice you'll see a woman and she's wearing a robe. Now this by itself isn't much for significance, but if you actually look next to the woman, adorned on it is these pendant-shaped objects which you see on the Godskin followers and, surprisingly, on Rykard's fingers. I truly believe that in some way or another they are worshipping these beings, that they are worshipping the Glowmide Queen. Now in what sense, I don't know, for if you look at the skinned bodies, they look like they've been petrified alive. Some of them look to be praying, while others seem to be screaming out in agony. Perhaps some of them willingly went, while others were forced to be there. It's really hard to know as we don't have any first-hand records of what actually happened, and we can only really infer. Sadly everyone, that is the end of the video. If you did enjoy, please consider leaving a like and subscribe as it greatly helps the channel. Without any further dilly-daddling, please don't you dare go hollow, friends, and may you find your worth in the waking world. Goodbye everyone.